Hello and welcome to another short drawing film. It's the hottest day of the year probably, and I'm standing in the middle of an airfield. I've got a bit of a shelter from this amazing Gloucester meteor, but that's not what I'm here to draw today, although I might try and squeeze one in if I can, if I haven't melted by the heat. What I'm going to try and draw is a collection of amazing vintage cars, including the Darracq and some Bugattis, Morgans, all sorts of things, except they're miniature versions, they're Cyclekarts. I've done a few sort of illustration jobs for the Cyclekarters in England and America, and this is the first time I've actually got to see some real ones. So I'm going to try and brave the heat and do a bit of sketching, see how many I can do before I flake out. So I've started my first sketch, and this is a little Austin inspired by one of Malcolm Campbell's smaller record cars. So there's a 750cc Austin that he used, probably for Brooklands, I would imagine, for those sorts of records. And I'm using the water-soluble pencils again. Still really enjoying using those. It's an interesting challenge. And so far I've just got down the basic shape and put one wash over just to get some tone down. And now I'm just trying to beef up some of the darkest shadows, which are these down here, and trying to group them so that it doesn't get too messy. I want to lump all the shadows together. I think that I've heard people say that's a good thing to do. It really comes in painting and stuff. So I'm going to try that, kind of just design them really so that they make nice shapes. Then I'll go over the water again to tie them all together. It always goes a bit darker when you add the water to the pencil. So it's a bit of a sort of tentative, put some down, add a bit of water, see what happens, put down a bit more if it needs it, hopefully not go too far. I've got some white chalk as well, which I might use just for some little highlights. Again, you want to be quite sparing with that, I find. So Cyclekarts, a thing I came across first, I saw them on an American website years ago, with some chap who had a farm. He just built himself a funny little car to race around in, with a lawnmower engine, I think. And it looked great fun. Lots of people were obviously inspired by it and decided to build their own. And before long they had enough to have an event with some races. And that seems to have now spread around the rest of the world. So it seems that you've got a choice of two engines. And I don't know about the chassis and stuff, whether that's up to you, but certainly the design of the body and everything is up to you. So it means that you get a really nice mixture of vehicles. It's probably the cheapest way to get into motorsport, I would have thought. Definitely pounds per miles is probably a pretty good reward, I reckon. It's a really nice bunch of people, plenty of events. This is an interesting place as well. This is Middlezoy Airfield, which I've never been to before. It's only about 45 minutes from where I live. And they seem to have World War II reenactment day. But dotted around in the hangars around in the background, there's some really interesting old planes. Some are real, some are recreations. So I think I've pretty much finished this one. I'm reasonably pleased with it. Sort of, always takes a few sketches to get into the swing of things. I'm just going around putting in a few little darks, just like the little highlights that I put on with the chalk. A few really strong darks can, I think, work in a similar kind of way. They just make the image pop a bit. Jeez, it's really hot. I think it's actually melting my pencil slightly, the wax in the pencil. When I sharpen it, it tends to break, which doesn't usually happen. I can only think that it's gone soft in the heat. Let's see what else I can find. Right, I've got myself set up by the car. Again, I'm quite close to this one, so it's going to be quite distorted. And I thought, I don't know how long I've got for this lunch break sketch. So I'm going to try and get it down quite quickly. So I'm going to try and go for more of a caricature. I'm not going to be doing very, very careful measuring like I'd do for a very precise drawing. Just going to see if I can capture the spirit of it. It's got quite a lot of character, this car, so it feels right to do something with a bit of caricature. So that's the plan. Let's see how it goes. So as usual, I try and just very roughly just get the basic shape down as quickly as I can, and very, very lightly, just to see that it fits on the page and that I'm happy with the overall kind of proportions and feel of it before I go in and do anything shading or press harder for anything. So this is the bit where I want to try and get this a bit of caricature in. There we go. Right, so I've roughed the car out, and I've just been thinking about what to do next. So like I said, the car's in shade, so there's not really any nice shading defining the shapes of the car. If you squint your eyes, it's just sort of silhouette, really. It has got these nice big checkers on it, which work nicely to give it some shape, but it might end up being quite hard to read as a form. So I'm going to try something a bit different, just to have a bit of a mess around. I'm going to try my Fude pen, do something with ink, because sort of line drawing, but also add some of the wash to it as well, the blue wash, which I haven't done before. So it's it might go wrong, but it might turn out nice. Let's have a look. So I'm resisting the urge to put any shading in, because I'm going to try and do that with the coloured pencil. So I'm just sticking to the line work. I was debating whether to use my ellipse templates. I've got them with me, but I'm going to be brave and just, for speed, and to try and capture the energy of this car, I want to do an energetic sketch. So I'll just be brave and do freehand circles. I find with quick sketches like this, you don't want to get bogged down trying to draw every spoke. So just a suggestion of spokes tells people that it's got spokes, and that's usually enough. Same with the tread on the tyre. If you show some little dots showing that there is a bit of texture on there, but you don't have to draw every little bit of tyre tread. So there's not a shadow on the ground, but I might cheat one in, just because otherwise the car's going to look a bit like it's floating. This always reminds me of those magic painting books you used to get as a kid, where you'd add water to a page and the colours would appear. It sounds like lunch break might be over. The noise will start again. I think I'm kind of happy with that. I'll plop a scan of it in so you can see it properly. Hello and welcome back to the cool of my desk. It's the next day and I'm just having a look at the sketches that I did yesterday. I didn't manage a full day yesterday, it was just too hot. But yeah, I came back and cooled off a bit, and now this morning I was just revisiting the sketches, just seeing what I managed to do in that baking heat. And this first sketch I'm reasonably pleased with. I think it kind of came out quite nice. The only question I've got about it is whether the car gets a bit lost in the background because they've got the same kind of tone on. And I wanted to put the tone in the background to make the top of the car stand out a bit. You know, if I didn't have tone in the background, then the top of the bonnet would get lost into the back. So that was the dilemma, you know, which bit. I could go even darker on the background, but then I might lose the wheels and the shadow. So it's kind of half a dozen of one and 12 of the other or something. So anyway, that was the dilemma. I refrained from reinforcing the line work because that would just make it a bit clunky, I think. I quite like it's quite gentle at the moment, subtle. But that is a consideration when you're working on any sketch, but particularly toned paper. How much do you leave blank and how much do you put highlights on and how much do you put shading on? So I'm using these Derwent Inktense water-soluble pencils. I've got some charcoal white from Generals and a water brush from Pentel. And so far I've learned that it's a good idea to use the white sparingly, because if you use too much of it, you kind of lose the impact of those white highlights. So that's one thing. I think leaving quite a lot of the page to the paper colour is a good idea if you can, probably more than I did here. And then that gives you a nice medium tone for everything. And then you can use your pencil to give you 2 or 3 shades. I've got kind of 2 main ones here, now sort of a medium and a dark. Maybe I could have added a 3rd really dark one or something, but if you get too many, then it can get muddy and out of control. So sort of simplifying it to a few shadow groups is probably a good thing to try. Yeah, so I'm kind of happy with that, and I didn't touch it anymore this morning just in case I might spoil it. I think it's probably done all I can on that one. The one that I did tweak a little bit more this morning was this one. I liked how this box suggested that the car was inside and then outside was through this window. So I tried to reinforce that a bit more with a bit more chalk on there. And then I darkened the outside of the box slightly to give the impression that, again, that you sort of reinforce that idea that we're in a shed, which I think helped. Yeah, it gives it a few layers of depth, I think, which it didn't have before I added that. So I hope you enjoyed that little trip to a Cyclekart event. Like I say, it was my first time, but I'm definitely going to be going back again because they're a really nice bunch of people and lots of fun stuff to sketch there. Do let me know in the comments if you've got any ideas for what I could have done differently on the drawings or your own experiences with working on toned paper or that sort of stuff. And otherwise, do like and subscribe. That's very useful. And have a fantastic week, and I'll see you for another film soon.